Good evening, dear colleagues. I'm pleased to introduce our speaker for today's webinar, Professor Sorin Paliga. Dr. Sorin Paliga is a professor on Czech at the University of Bucharest, Faculty of Foreign Languages and Literatures. He is a translator from Czech, English, and French. The focus of his research is the languages and cultures of Southeast Europe. A particular area of research is the etymology of the Romanian language in relation to others Southeast European languages and the origin of toponyms, including the Proto-Indo-European heritage. The lecture Substratum Thracian place names in Romania and the Balkans is in this area. Excuse me for my voice, but I have a flu. Please, Professor Paliga, present your lecture.
Thank you very much, Valeria, for the kind presentation. Dear colleagues, I have prepared a basic text for my presentation, and I have to thank Sorin Finkelstein for his corrections and notes. This is just a sketch. I have also prepared some other files depending on how you appreciate or, well, not appreciate. So the main topic is old substratum place names in Romania and the Balkans. It is in fact a topic I approached many years ago. I would like to briefly switch to this issue of Orpheus, Orpheus, yeah. This issue published, well, 35 years ago. In fact, it is so to speak, a compilation. It is a list, a kind of glossary, of a limited dictionary of pre-Slavic and pre-Romance place names in Southeast Europe, South Slavic in Romania. The focus is on the place names in Bulgaria. And I want to state why Bulgaria? Because there is a long discussion here. I don't have time to analyze in many details, but I think the explanation why Romanian place names and Bulgarian place names, old one, I mean substratum, they are so similar from the simple reason that both the territory of Romania and the territory of Bulgaria were inhabited by the Thracian groups. So mainly, this is the center of their civilization. So it is normal to have similar or identical forms sometimes in this area. There are, of course, similarities not only in place names, but also in elements of vocabulary, including substratum heritage. Here, and I want to begin with this quite old glossary. It is divided into three parts. The first one refers to place names in, so to speak, Central Balkans. The second one is a compilation, a selection of Peter Skok's analysis of the place names in the Adriatic Islands. It's an old book of Peter Skok, published in 1950. So 75 years ago, approximately. And the third part, which refers to Romanian place names, in order to show how these forms complement each other. And I'll come back to the presentation and to briefly present an overview. So I have just spoken about this similarity, yeah, of place names in Romania and Bulgaria, but also with other parts of the Balkans. And also, many years ago, I analyzed some pre-Slavic place names in the Czech and Slovak area, yeah, Czech-Slovak area. And there are some similarities. I don't have time to dig deeper now. I want to stress one thing. In Bulgaria, the substratum, so pre-Slavic and pre-Romance place names, have been a constant focus of analysis for at least 50 years. So our Bulgarian scholars were a lot more insistent on this aspect than the studies published in Romania. In fact, if we want to refer to major works, I mean ample works, there are only two. One book published in 1933, so almost a century ago, Nicolae Draganu, but the substratum of Thracian heritage in place names is totally absent. And the newer one, published by Iorgu Iordan, in those times a very influential linguist, in 1963, so more than half a century ago. In the latter example, the substratum heritage is very timid, I mean, here and there. In the field of place names, there is only one attempt. Yeah, I mentioned it here. It is a second volume of Istoria Limbii Române, history of the Romanian language. The second volume, published in 1969, so more than half a century ago, and was written by Cicerone Pogirc, in those days, a professor of classical languages at the University of Bucharest. Unfortunately, his attempt, there were some 50 pages of very serious analysis, were not followed. I may, of course, praise myself that I followed him and I included his research in my studies, but my case is isolated. Maybe this is also because Cicerone Pogirc migrated to Germany in the 1980s, and you know, during the communist era, when someone migrated or emigrated west, his or her name was erased, was nomen odiosum, so his works were not quoted or used. So this is a kind of political aspect. But you know, we those people who live here, we do know that politics has always had a very important role in the scientific life, especially during the communist era, even before, but especially. So it was a long period. It was almost half a century, and this affected, of course, the scientific analysis. The second note I would like to highlight or underline is that generally the substratum heritage of Romanian has been put down, minimized. I mean, most linguists consider it a kind of decomania. It's not serious linguistics. I have to confess, I have been also accused of being a decomaniac. my reaction is that I'm not a dicomaniac, dacomaniac, yeah, in Romanian, Thracomaniac, if we speak at a larger scale, but I have tried to bring forth arguments that the substratum heritage in Romania, in place names and in Romanian as a language, is a lot more important than currently accepted. What does currently accepted mean? It means that in most works dedicated to the substratum, and I may quote here my generation and the younger generation know this. E. Rusu, who was famous in the 1960s, 70s. Then Ariton Vraciu, who published also a book and studies about the Thracian language. Cicerone Pogir, which I mentioned. Gheorghe Ivanescu, author of a very good history of the Romanian language, maybe the best such history, published in 1980. So in all these books, I mean, I have mentioned 4 important authors. The number of substratum elements is around 180, 200, not more. In fact, it is a lot higher. Yeah, this number is a lot higher. I have mentioned here Hajdeu, who was, so to speak, the first thracologist in Romania more than a century ago. Even in those times, that this term was not used. I would like to pass now to some examples, some case studies, because speaking generally is perhaps less interesting than studying some clear examples. I would like to scroll down to some case studies. I will come back to a general discussion. I have mentioned several words of substratum origin which are accepted, I think. Bach, yeah, Old Shepherd, yeah, I have put it here, yeah. Yeah, which is reflected also in some place names in the Balkans. Buza is a very interesting word, I mean lip, yeah. In my opinion, it is the same root found in the river name Buzău. Also, personal name Buzea, Buzescu, Buzilă. And also, I think it is absolutely normal to consider the same root in the case of the legendary or semi-legendary Bizes or Buzes, yeah, the founder of Byzantium, yeah. Now, of course, another very typical word is Dava Deva, yeah, Dava Deva Dova, fortress in Thracian. And let me now pass to quote how this word has been preserved in Pulpudeva, now Plovdiv in Bulgaria, and Kukudiva, also in Bulgaria, 2 place names which were, I think, half a century ago or almost analyzed by Ivan Duridanov. In those days, a very influential. And I have added a map here. Yeah. How Thracian Dava Deva has been preserved so far and until now in 3 cases, 2 in Bulgaria and 1 in. Those who study Romanian know that there is an erroneous hypothesis considering that intervocalic V cannot be present in a substratum element because it should have been lost, because it is lost in the Latin elements. This is not true. Intervocalic B and V are regularly preserved in the substratum elements, and some of them have become larger, except like abur, vapors, yeah, abur, Albanian abur. If we have intervocalic B, it is rarely, exceptionally preserved even in the Latin elements. We have the very frequent verb avea, to have, also avea is also auxiliary verb, yeah. So I think this is one example of how forms on the territory of Romania and Bulgaria witness similar evolutions. Let me now pass to another example, or other examples. Yeah, for example, Nera and Naruja, two river names with clearly related forms. In Serbian, Nera, Neretva, ancient Naron, North Macedonian place name and river, Nerav, Neravska Reka, yeah, in Vardar Basin. Yeah. Another very interesting case is Safta, a feminine name in Romanian, Seftoiu, a family name, and Seftovite Dăbe, Seftoviciucari in Panagiusko region in Bulgaria, which seems related to ancient form Seutas or Seutos. In the Bulgarian linguistic literature, this place name is accepted as a Thracian relic. Another example, Savu in Romania, a river name, yeah, and we have Sava, ancient Savus, and Savinia, a tributary of Sava in Serbia. Of course, it interferes with the Saint Sava, yeah, but this is normal in the case of personal names, which interfere with old ancient place names. One famous example is the place name Vrbas, which is ancient Urbanus or Urbanus, which by folk etymology is associated with Serbian or Croatian Vrba, willow. But we do know that Vrbas is in fact the continuation of Urbanus Urbanus. Now I would like to pass to a very interesting case of the forms Siret Siriu and Stray Strems and Bulgarian Struma. Let me show you an interesting map. Yeah, we have the very known, yeah, river Strymon, Struma now in Bulgaria, ancient Strymon. And we have very small, two small rivers in Romania with the same phonetic evolution, Stray and Strems. They have never been associated or compared with Bulgarian Struma, even if in all these cases we have the Indo-European root Sreu, which followed by a vowel goes to Str in this part of this area. You mean central part of Romania, central part of Bulgaria. But we have from the same root, Siret and Siriu. I haven't added here on the map. Two, Siret is a quite important river in Moldova, eastern Romania. Siriu is somewhere here. And we have Sirmium, now Strem in Serbia. So these lateral areas do not witness the same phonetic evolution, even if I think the root is Sersir to flow, very typical in river names. Yeah, I have made here a comparison. Very interesting. This my intention when I wish to present these river names was to show that sometimes the phonetic evolution is identical, sometimes it is different. So here it is the eastern area of the Thracian territory, and this is the western part of the Thracian territory, interfering with the Illyrian territory, because this part of Western Serbia interferes with the Illyrian territory. Let us go to another example. So, for example, we have in Transylvania, Shar, yeah, and we have in Northern Macedonia, Shar. In both cases, they are mountain names. They are identical, yeah. Ancient Skardon or Skardus, yeah. Probably my reconstruction is probably this spelling Skardon, Skardus was for Chardon, Chardus, but in Greek and Latin spelling, the writers, the historians could not note phoneme sh because it did not exist in Latin or Greek. And finally, I would like to mention river name Veda in Romania, Videle and Vidraru, yeah, and root Vedvid, which is connected to water. Yeah, we have in Bulgarian river names Vidbol, Vidpol, Vid, and Vidin on the Danube. Yeah, it is the wood water, also in udus in Latin, English wet. So, an example how this old Indo-European root with a basic meaning wet water has been preserved on a large area, not only in Southeast Europe, but also in the Celtic area in English. And now a very few words about a possible and in my mind quite clear Celtic influence. You know, Celtic influence cannot be very important in Romania, in Romanian as a language, and in Romania in plain. Nevertheless, I think one may identify two clear cases of a Celtic influence. Why? One is the river named Isa in Maramureș, in a beautiful area. I was there many years ago, several times, not recently. It is obviously related to known Celtic river name like Isère in southeast France, and river name Isar, a tributary of the Danube flowing through Austria and Germany. These are clear West European influences, Celtic influences, in an area where the Celtic influence is documented in several archaeological sites. The Celtic influence was powerful in the 4th century BC. And this is an example that this river name. And a second example is a river name and also place name, the city of the town of Zalău on river Zalău, yeah, yeah, which is more or less identical or very similar to the river name Zala, a river name at the border of between Slovenia and Hungary in Celtic area, in a Celtic area. Intervocalic L is normally in the case of substratum element, so I don't see any impediment in seeing here a Celtic survivor. I would like to add one more example, a very interesting one. The place name Iași. Probably if you go to Romania, maybe you visited Iași, which I find the most interesting and beautiful town in Romania. You probably know that the current hypothesis is that it reflects the ethnic name, ethnonym Yassi, which was an alternative name of the Alans, Alani, a Sarmatian group. There is no serious argument for this, but those linguists and historians who have shared this hypothesis have regularly ignored the fact that there are 4 other place names with the same name. They are spelled Yesh or Yeshul, Yash or Yashul, Vala Yashuli and Gura Yashuli, which suggests their name is initially from a river name. Yeah. I think the linguists have been misguided by the spelling, because indeed Yash looks like a plural. But those who know Romanian, I think I have it here. You know that in final position, sh, the sh or shi are pronounced identically. It's like a soft sh. So we say un moș, doi moși, yeah, an old man, 2 old men, which is the same pronunciation. So I think in my mind and in my analysis, the correct spelling is Yash without final E, yeah? But this is a convention. This is a convention in Romanian, yeah, which works sometimes, doesn't work sometimes, yeah? Gura Iașului, yeah, I added here Moș and Moș, which are pronounced identically. So let us go back to this form. If we accept that Iași is initially an ethnic name, we must explain the other 4 forms. Maybe there are others. These forms have been identified by me, studying a list of place names. Do they also reflect the names of the Yassi, of the Alans? I don't think so. There is no serious proof. This one is a mountain name. It's a peak in the Parâng Mountains. The Alans did not live there. This area is also an area without any documented presence of these Alans. So, in my interpretation, I'm rather inclined to consider Yash, Yesh, yeah, a substratum place names. In fact, substratum place names in the plural, because we have 5 here, the best known, capital of Moldavia, and other 4 forms in this part of Romania, which is Oltenia and here a neighboring Mehedinți county. And now, finally, very briefly, because I don't want to become boring, the pre-Indo-European heritage and tradition. This is a topic I wrote about many years ago. This is provocative. To my astonishment, the pre-Indo-European heritage, it is true, it has rarely been a topic of debate in the scientific literature published in Southeast Europe. For Southeast Europe, I may quote only 2 examples. Petar Skok, I mentioned him in his book published in 1950. And there is another Croatian linguist who analyzed the ancient names of the area, Radoslav Katicic. I mentioned him here. Interestingly, two Croatian linguists. The book of Katicic, I would like to underline it, is relatively known and better known than the book of Petarskov because it was published by a known publishing house, Mouton, in English in 1976, which is an advantage. Whereas Skok's book was published in 1950 in Croatian. So less known even in Croatia, it is unknown. And I would add a book about the ancient place names in Provence, in France, Charles Rostaing, Essai sur la toponymie de la Provence, yeah, also published in 1950. These are very interesting books. For example, little known, very little known. Charles Rostaing is known in French literature for later, after publishing this book about the place names in Provence, writing a book about the French place names, Toponymie Française, a book published in late 1960s, if I'm not wrong, if my memory is correct. Charles Rostaing gives much attention to the pre-Indo-European heritage, and he dedicates approximately 200 pages. And his book includes, in fact, a kind of glossary of pre-Indo-European roots. I think Thracian cannot be the Thracian language, heritage, the Thracian heritage, cannot be seriously studied without the pre-Indo-European heritage. Just like Greek. Greek is known to have a very important pre-Greek, pre-Hellenic heritage, pre-Indo-European heritage, which was better and more studied. And I think Thracian is in the same position. There are many surprises here. I don't want to become boring, but I would like to mention only this is yeah. I approached this topic in linguistic Balkanic in 2017, and I mentioned, yeah, a new and more decidedly saying the realm of Ur. Yeah, Ur is a very old and pre-Indo-European root with a meaning high, big, huge. And I tried to bring forth arguments. It was published. Frankly speaking, I was astonished. The colleagues in linguistic Balkanic, Balkans, Kozania, published it. I was afraid they would not do it because, interestingly, the Bulgarian colleagues have studied their place, substratum place names of Thracian origin, very serious, insistently and with very good results in studies and also in books. To my astonishment, they have never approached the pre-Indo-European heritage, even if from the archaeological point of view, the territory of Bulgaria, just like the territory of Greece and of Romania, is very rich in pre-Indo-European, Neolithic and Neolithic sites, right? So it is normal to have pre-Indo-European elements because it is confirmed by archaeology. And at this point, I would like to mention, I don't want to be more aggressive or than necessary. I will astonish you. I have recently had a polemical note with the Hungarian colleague, Levente Nagy, the head of the Romanian department at the University of Budapest. It is a kind of very largely spread hypothesis that Romanian Oraș township is of Hungarian origin. Besides politics, I don't think this is a good explanation. One solid argument, or an argument considered solid, is that Oraș is not attested south of the Danube. This is not true. it is true. It is not attested in Macedon-Romanian, in Balkan Romanian, where the normal word for township is kasaba. Yeah, my colleagues, Balkanologists, may confirm. Kasaba is a word of Turkish origin, in its turn of Arabic origin. It was also used in Bulgarian in the Middle Ages, but now it is obsolete. In change, Orash is attested on a large area of place names of the type Orashats. In Serbian, it is, I have identified, very interesting. I don't think I'm boring here. Yeah. There are 12 place names of the type Orashats. Yeah. 3 in Bosnia and Herzegovina, in the regions Bihać, Novi Travnik, and Prozor. 1 in Croatia, in Dubrovnik. 1 in Macedonia, northern Macedonia, Kumanovo region. And 5 in Serbia, Aranđelovac, Leskovac, Obranovac, Prijepolje, and Šabac, plus other 2 of the type Orešats, I mentioned here, Orešat. I have to thank my colleague Tedekal. He sent me the link to some Ottoman archives. Look, Orašiće, Bort Orašiće, Dolna Orašiće. It is the same place name. It is attested in Ottoman documents. So Oraš, Orashat, Orašice, is a very typical suffix for place names in Serbian and Croatian. So it is attested in areas very, very far from the Danube, like northern Macedonia and southern Serbia and Croatia. So it was a false assumption. Curiously, even it is very easy to identify these forms. I don't mean the Ottoman form because Tedekal have studied this. But the other forms in former Yugoslavia, mainly Serbia, Macedonia, Croatia, are very easily to be identified. Unfortunately, I cannot dig deeper because I don't have access to local archives in order to study the history of these forms, but they are obvious. Yeah, they're obvious. So until solid arguments are invoked, Romanian Orash is not of Hungarian origin. I do know that my Hungarian colleagues will consider me the Comaniac nationalist. I don't speak about nationalism here. I speak about etymology, and the etymology is relatively clear. I would finish my presentation here because maybe you have questions. Just only several conclusions. As I tried to show even here in this study published in Orpheus Ophios in 2001, it was a double issue, 25 years ago. The most, there are some errors here, but not essential errors. 2 or 3 errors I have identified. They are not tragic errors. I mean, they do not change my analysis published 25 years ago. There are many substratum place names in Romania. Some of them, or I don't have a very accurate estimation. Some of them, or many of them, have clear correspondences in the Bulgarian place names, Bulgarian toponymy, also in Serbian and other Balkan toponymy. They have also Indo-European correspondences and sometimes pre-Indo-European origin, and I try to show you several examples. Only in the case of Orash, Orasha. there is a false impression that the number of substratum place names in Romania, is limited or absolute. This is not true. This is a false conclusion drawn from superficial, from shallow analysis, inconsistent approaches. Very often, the discussion may belong here. Why the Romanian linguists have ignored substratum heritage? I don't know. They often consider it Dacomania or exaggerated, etc. They associate it with studying the substratum heritage is sometimes associated with nationalism. This is not true, or with extreme right. Yeah, this is not true. The extreme right in Romania developed between the two wars, interwar period, had absolutely no connection with the substratum heritage, and there is no serious publication in those times which may possibly make us believe that the extreme right was associated with the Thracian heritage. This is not true. This is absolutely fantasy generated by those who I may be a little bit aggressive here because they are lazy to study. Of course, it is difficult to study the substratum heritage of Romania. I don't assert it is easy. It is difficult, but it is very interesting. It is the only way. It is the only way to identify the historical linguistic layers, yeah, from pre-Indo-European times, Indo-European, Thracian times, Roman times, Latin influence, medieval, etc. So I would end my presentation here, and if you have, I don't know, comments, questions, I am ready to answer if I can do it. Thank you. Mariana,
thank you, Professor Paliga, for this interesting lecture. I am not a linguist, but I remember now some parallels. Urdovisa, today Kitten, town Kitten, Black Sea, in Bulgaria, which correspond to your or perhaps with Pisa. And for Syrio, Siret, we have Thracian King Sirm, Tribelian.
Maybe,
Which correspond. I want to ask you for Perelik, Perseng, which correspond to with Perpir, Indo-European Perpir.
Yes. If you mention the root org, look, I have included here Orga, place name, Bulgaria, Tolovica region, pre-Slavic Thracian, yeah. Root or org, Dechev mentioned in his famous book, The Thracian Scholars. Orga, in Bulgaria, I think Orga is the same root or which I mentioned, and it is preserved in Bulgaria as well. Maybe in other examples as well. I cannot study deeply the place name in Bulgaria, but I have included it because it is mentioned in the studies published in Bulgaria. Yeah.
Professor Paliga, in my hand is a very interesting book of Professor Yanakiev, Thracian Pseudonymy.
Yeah. Very good book. I know. Yeah, Yanakieva is a very good linguist. I know. We have
And
exchanged.
there is a lot of parallels
Yeah,
with
yeah.
Romanian toponym.
Look,
And
I don't pretend to have identified all the forms. I think it is a discussion open to other colleagues as well, Yana Kieva and others. And I
yeah,
think future is promising here because there are many forms which should be studied and data put together in order to have a consistent set of forms.
and dear colleagues, please feel free to make comments and ask questions. And Mark, with a hand, you want to speak.
I say here, Mariana, your hand is raised. Do you have a question? But I don't see any question here.
And
I don't know who is
Daniela,
Mariana Manjura. I don't know. I don't see her here on my screen.
I see Daniela. Please, Daniela
Yes.
Stolzer.
Um, okay, hello everyone. Sorry, I didn't write my question in the webinar chat because I thought that it would be active, but it was disabled. Anyway, now I see that I could have written it in the question and answer section. Anyway, thank you very much, Professor Paliga, for the really interesting talk. And but I was surprised that you haven't mentioned Professor Brâncuș. Yes, Grigore Brâncuș's work on toponymy, and I would like to ask you if there is any thing that you do not agree with Professor Brâncuș.
No. It's just this is a brief presentation. It is true that Grigore Brâncuș, I knew him personally, and we had very good relations. Of course, he was a senior professor. I was younger and timid. No, simply Grigore Brâncuș, in my mind, in my analysis, didn't write very much about place names. He wrote about Romanian-Albanian relations, just like Caterina Bătășescu. But his contributions are remarkable, of course. No, it's no by not quoting him is not intentional. It's just that I don't consider his contribution very relevant in the field of place names, but in the field of vocabulary, yes. But I haven't analyzed here vocabulary, just briefly when I referred to.
Okay, thank you very much.
And now, Emil G. Welcome.
Yes, Emil, please. I don't hear anything from you.
Okay, I was trying to write it before. So, actually, if you haven't identified any important sound changes or kind dialectal areas with sound changes, such as the change from long A to
Yes. I haven't analyzed it here because the presentation would be too long. Yes, long A to U and remains A in on the territory of Bulgaria. Yeah, it is true. Yes.
so it is also in Bulgaria, yes?
Now, in my analysis, for example, we have convincing reconstructions, like, for example, Danubius, Dunare, yeah, there was a long A there. It is clear. And we have Dunare. So instead of the expected A, we have Y, because long A in northern dialects of Thracian changed to W and then to U. And we have at least two clear or three clear examples. One is Da Naris Dunare, which is isolated. I mean, Dunare cannot be borrowed or cannot be alone from other languages. We have Marisia Mureș, the same change, long A to U. And we have muma in the vocabulary. I think Romanian has mama from Latin, has mica from Slavic, and he has muma from mama from the Thracian substratum.
My
I
question
think
is whether it can be isolated to a specific area of the Balkans or it is general.
this, I don't know whether it is general because we must compare with existing data. The same phonetic change occurred in Germanic. So it is not a very strange phonetic change from long A to U. Germanic also had this, some Germanic dialects. So I think it's within the frame of attested phonetic changes. But of course, we have to study more. In my mind, it is a very clear dialectal, because, for example, in my mind, from the same root, we have the river name Marica in Bulgaria. I think Marica and Maricia have the same root. It's Indo-European mar. Yeah. From here, mare, maris in Latin, etc. So we have Marica in Bulgaria, but we have Mureș in Romania. So I think southern Thracian dialects did not witness this phonetic change. Whereas starting from the Danube to the north, Dunăre, Mureș, this phonetic change is, I think, convincing. But of course, there are maybe counter-arguments. I'm ready to discuss it.
Also, I noticed the two important changes, or the one of K to G, K to G. So the voicing of voiceless consonants. And I know that this is a feature of
For example, could you offer an example?
You have on the screen panega, which has suffix g,
Yes.
which is from Indo-European cos.
Yes. Okay. I think when we refer to ancient spellings, there is a problem which was also approached in some of my studies, but also Svetlana Yanakieva, who was mentioned by Valeria. Both Yanakieva and I think that the ancient spellings may be misguiding, especially when the Greeks and the Latins had to note specific sounds like or
Yes.
or sh or ts.
Here, as I understand, it's a modern.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
rendering.
when we refer to such old spellings, we must and I mentioned, for example, Seftoiu, Seftovite Debe, and Seutas. I think it is a typical case when the spelling of a nation name could not be accurate. In change, the spelling of Dava is very accurate because there is no specific sound. Romanian place name Deva is identical to the Asian spelling because there is no spatial sound here. It is D-E-V-A, Deva. Yeah, Plovdiv, Pulpudeva, Plovdiv. It is a phonetic change attested in other forms. Cuckoo, Kokodeva, Kukudiva.
Have you any form of homophony, like when a series of two consonants, one voiced and the other one unvoiced, if they become both voiced or both voiceless because of this homophony? Have you noticed this?
Maybe. I haven't analyzed recently this very case, but we can do it, yeah, based on several examples.
The reason I'm asking is that if you know Alexei Kasyan from
Yes, Alexei
Moscow,
Kasyan is a very good Russian linguist, yes. Yeah.
he identified thematic substratum in, okay, he's just discussing it, but I mean,
Yeah, I
he's,
know.
and his theory is that thematic sound change of voicing is because of homophony and not because of
Yes, I cannot extend here a discussion with Kasyan's. I know him. I have read several studies, but I think we complicate things too much in this because Kasyan studies are not very directly relevant to Thracian, as far as I know, and as far as I know his writings.
Mm-hmm. All right.
Is there anyone to ask on or comment? Yes. Ina, Agari, please. Yes, you can.
And I cannot hear. I think you have not connected your microphone.
Ina, Arapi, please, welcome.
Do you hear me now?
Yes, no. Now it is okay. I can hear you, yes.
Okay, because I have no microphone here, but I wanted only to say, thank you very much for the very interesting lecture, Professor Paliga. I wanted to say I have written in the chat that Varosh is also known in Albania, in the city of Vlora. A quarter is named Varosh. Is
yes,
the name
but
Orash or not?
Look, there is a very interesting history of this word, and I have written recently a polemical note in against Levente Nord. You'll find it on Academia Edu, and I explained there is a Romanian, English, and Hungarian version of this polemical note that Varosh, when it was assimilated, look, Varosh is not reflected, though does not reflect Romanian Orash. Yeah? Romanian Orash cannot be borrowed from Varosh because the phonetic changes are not okay. Also, Varosh cannot be imported from Romanian because Orash cannot result in Hungarian Varosh. But Hungarian Varosh from a given moment, because urban settlements were early in Hungary, Hungarian Varosh became a technical, so to speak, technical term, and it is attested in Serbian and Bulgarian, Varu is Varosha. For example, the very center of Veliko Trnovo is Varusha, the old town. Yeah? So in Serbian Varosh, and in Bulgarian Varuj Varusha, and in Albanian, this is clear Hungarian influence. I guess in Albania is via Serbia, not directly from Hungarian, because I don't think there is a direct influence, but Varuj, Varusha is indeed attested in Serbian and Bulgarian as reflecting the commercial, the marketplace in a town. Yes. Yeah? But the very origin of Varosh, yeah, is, please read my study because it's very interesting.
Okay.
It's very interesting.
I do,
it's very interesting. You'll find it on Academia Edu. There is English, Romanian, and Hungarian versions. Just choose one.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
But I would be tempted to have another presentation only about Oraș Varoš. I do understand that my Hungarian colleagues would feel affected, that may possibly accuse me I am a nationalist. I'm not a nationalist, but I like to have correct etymologies, correct explanations. And in my mind, explanation of that Oraș reflects a borrowing from Varoš is not a good explanation, because there are many details which contradict such an explanation. It has nothing to do with politics or other considerations. We are speaking about linguistic changes and linguistic contexts. It has nothing to do with politics. It has to do with correct explanations of the history of words. This is my explanation.
Well, another questions or comments, please? If somebody want to speak, no.
Well, I think I may thank all the participants in this discussion, and they may send the questions. I have mentioned my email here. Well, some of the participants of this webinar know me, so there is they may send their questions or comments directly. Thank you.
Well, once again, thank you, Professor.
I thank you. I thank you.
For the interesting
for your patience. I thank you for your patience.
And thank you for all colleagues who participate in webinar. And
thank you, Valeria. Thank you, team. And maybe we'll have time and occasion to have other webinars, conferences.
Maybe we'll have another webinar on the linguistic questions.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Have a nice day. Nice
have a nice weekend. And Easter.